So, in today's session, we'll continue with the SQL Transform. So let me right click on the project, new. Let's create data flow. So let us give the name SQL Transform. Click finish. So on your right hand side, we see SQL Transform. Now what is the use of SQL Transform? Use SQL Transform to read data using native SQL statements. So you can read data from the remote sources. SQL Transform, now when you select the SQL Transform and drag and drop onto the work area, so I selected the SQL Transform, it only has an output, it does not have an input. So let us select two SQL Transforms. So now what I will try to do now, I'll log into Hana Studio. So let me log into Hana Studio. So let us log into system. Let's log on content. So let's select any views. Let me expand content, and then let's go to any package, and let me select the views. So I click on the analytic view, click data preview, and click raw data. So this is the output of the analytic view, which is actual. So what am I trying to do now? I'll click on show log, double click on the generated SQL. So copy the SQL statement that you have over here. Just copy, and let's go back to bods. Click on the SQL Transform. So once you click on the SQL Transform, here it is asking you the data store. Click on the properties and select the data store as Hana. So click on the properties and select the data store as Hana. Double click on Hana data store and copy paste the SQL statement. Copy paste the SQL statement and click validate. Your SQL was successfully validated, and click detect schema. So once you click detect schema, now see it is trying to read the schema from the information views. So it's basically trying to read the native SQL statements from Hana, that is from information view. The same way, let's select the second one and select the data store, Hana, and then now let's do it for plan. Let me right click on plan analytic view, click data preview, click on raw data. So let us click show log, and let us also copy the select statement from the plan analytic view. Click close and close. Come back and copy paste the statement. So once you click copy paste the statement, click validate, click close, and click detect schema. So now we have both actual as well as planned data. So SQL transform, this reads actual and this one reads planned data. So I'll now take a query transform. So let us select the query transform. So let me join both SQL transforms in the query transform. So in a query transform, if you see the third tab, which is joins. So click add the left schema, which is SQL transform, and join type. You can select whatever the join is required, and select the right schema, which is SQL transform 1. Now here you see there is a small bulb-like icon. Click on this. So it will propose detect joins dialog. Please confirm the joins that are correct. So system proposes different joins. Now you can select whatever you don't require. You can just select whatever is not required. Yes, you can delete them. Reject, click on reject. So whatever is required you can keep, and whatever you don't require we can reject those joins, and then click confirm all. So once you click confirm all, so at the bottom the selected join expression is derived based on the join editor. So this is the selected join expression. Click on the output. Let's click on the output. Now let us select the required columns from both these. So let me select the required columns. So let us select the required columns. So from the input schema, now this is the output schema. We are selecting the required columns from input schema to the output schema. Now let us select template table. Let's select the template table, drag and drop. Now I would like to load both the SQL transforms. After I join this, I would like to send to third-party system. So I click data store, click on SQL data store, MS SQL data store, give the table owner DBO, and then provide the table name jetcopa underscore actual underscore plan underscore data. So once you provide the table name and link query with the template table. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to read the information views from Hana, and then we're trying to join in the query and finally send to the MS SQL system. So click validate, validation successful, and finally click execute and click finish. So it's running the job. Click on view trace log. Job is completed successfully. Let's click start. Click on SQL Server Management Studio. So let us check for the table. DB555 and password is DB555. Click connect. Let's expand the database. Let's go to the database DB555. Expand database DB555. Expand tables. And here we would see, let us search for so what was the table name? It was Jet Copa actual plan data. So let's see. This is DB55. Looking for DB555. So here we see the table. Right click on the table and select top 1000 rows. Now here you would see the data that is being loaded by the system. So in this way we can join views. You can read native HANA views, and then you can do a query transform where you can join this both the sources, and finally you're sending to the third-party system. Okay. So until now, what are we doing now? Until now, what we are doing here is so we have ECC and we have BODS, we have HANA. Sometimes we are taking ECC tables and then you're trying to apply some business rules, case, merge, and then finally you're loading to HANA. Or we are taking HANA as a source and we are taking MS SQL as a target. So we're kind of reading tables or views from HANA. We're trying to apply data massaging and finally send to MS SQL. So either you can load from ECC to HANA or take data out of HANA and load to different system. So I'll try to explain one more scenario over here. Let's try to explain one more scenario. So let's say you have ECC and then you have BODS and you have HANA. So what are we generally doing? We're importing tables from ECC. We're importing tables from ECC to BODS repository. So the table from ECC we're storing in the repository. Now where this repository, the repository is on the MS SQL. The repository is on the MS SQL. So this is BODS. The repository is on the MS SQL. Now in MS SQL where it is, it's in the database. So there are system tables. Now in these system tables, the imported metadata is stored. Now if you see here, if I go back to MS SQL, now these are all the system tables where the BODS related metadata is stored and the configuration is stored. Now whenever you're importing these tables, on the ECC, these tables have ABAP data types. The tables are having ABAP data types. Now, when you import these tables from ECC to BODS, because the underlying database is MS SQL, especially ECC data types which belong to dates, and MS SQL data types which belongs to dates. When you basically create the table in HANA using a template table option. So when you're creating this table in HANA using a template table option, are we pointing to ECC metadata or are we pointing to MS SQL metadata? Because template tables are the tables which create in runtime based on the repository metadata. So they inherit whatever the data types that are here, they basically create in HANA. So what the issue will come here is, now whenever you would like to join tables, when you would like to join tables based on dates, especially when you would like to analyze time-based analysis. So during the time, we may get some issues like data types mismatch. We may get issues like data types mismatch. So in order to avoid this situation, what SAP has done is, you don't have to always import to the repository. You can bypass this step. You can directly import the table using the bods data store into HANA. So in this case, HANA and ECC are both from SAP system, are both from SAP. So they have better compatibility on data types rather than MS SQL. So for that reason, SAP has given an option. If you go to HANA Studio, if you go to the quick launch, so let's select the system. So in here, SAP has given an option. Click import. Once you click import, here you have an option called selective import of metadata. So we're not importing data, but we're only talking about the structure, which is nothing but the metadata. Now let me read out the sentence. Select this option to import selected table definitions from SAP ERP source system using SAP Business Objects Data Services into SAP HANA database. So you're importing the selected table definition from ERP using Business Objects Data Services into SAP HANA database. So that is what we are trying to discuss over here. So always you don't have to import to MS SQL. Just by using a data store connection, you can import directly to HANA. So when you want to perform this exercise, so first at the HANA Studio, you need to make sure, here you see there is something called at the setup, you see configure import server. Click on configure import server. Now the server address is server, repository name is bods, ODBC data source is HANA ODBC 32, and the default port number is 8080. So to perform this exercise, in order to perform this exercise, I will use in data services, there is a different UI called data services designer. So let me click on start, click all program, click data services 4.2 and click on the data services designer. So let's click on designer. So designer is a UI. When SAP bought business objects in 2008, 7-8, so this UI they got from the original business objects company. As you know, as most of you know, business objects is acquired by SAP. So during the time when they acquired, they even got this ETL tool, which is business objects data services. But once they acquired and once SAP started working on HANA 2010-11, so they introduced a new UI for data services, which is known as Workbench. So that's what we are working all these days on Workbench. So I'm just showing you now on the old UI, which is Data Services Designer. So in order to log into the Data Services Designer, you need to provide the username, password, and you also need to log on to a repository. So let me provide the username, which is Surya. Password is S capital URYA 1234. Click log on. Click log on. So here you see there are different repositories. But what is our repository that we created a day before yesterday? It was DB 555. I think it is, we given a name something like, I think report 555. Let me once check. I think, yeah, we have registered as report 555. So if you remember, I have logged into CMC, Central Management Console. And then in the Central Management Console, we registered the local repository with the name report 555. Now when you double click on the report 555, now it will ask us to enter the password for this repository. The password for the repository is same, which is repo 555, and click OK. I think the password is wrong. Let me try again. So password is it is DB 555. DB 555. The repository name is report 555 and the password is DB 555. Now once we double click, and then here we see project area. Here we see local object library, which is nothing but the local repository. The local repository is report 555, and here you see the data stores. So when you click on the project, you see now these projects are already available at the data services workbench. So when we created data services workbench, now whatever the projects that you create here are backward compatible. So you can see the jobs. You can see the jobs which are actually created in the backend. If you double click on this, so this is a data store. If you double click on this, so we did not create this, automatically system created this based on the jobs that we execute in the designer. So in the designer, whatever the jobs you execute, these creates the backend objects in this fashion. So system automatically creates all these objects in the backend based on the models that we create on the workbench. So bods Hana underscore Copa tables. So this is, so for the same replication job, bods Hana underscore Copa tables. So this is the job server. These are called as data stores. These are known as data stores. And when you double click on a data store, it will show you the, sorry, these are not data stores, these are data flows. These are called as data flows. And these are called as data store. A data store is a connection, and a data flow is where we define the ETL process. These are called as data flows. Double click on this. So you see the table, query transform, and the target table. So all these are created by system. But in today, we were going to create these manually. So we basically create project, Let me click new. Let me create a project, say Copa underscore data. Click create. I'm creating a new project. Let me right click on the project, click new batch job. So once you create a batch job, the batch job is nothing but the replication job, which is used to schedule and load data to target system. Click on the data flow. On the tools palette area, click on the data flow. Click on the work area. A data flow is where we create the ETL flow. Double click on the data flow. In here we can define the ETL. So in order to get tables from source system, the first thing that we need to do is click on data store folder, right click on the free space, click new, give the data store name as ECC6, data store type, let us select SAP applications, give the database server name of the ECC, click start, click SAP logon, right click on ECC, click properties. The application server is ECC SRV. Let's copy this, copy paste, provide the username Surya, the password is S capital URYA 1234. Click on advanced. In the advanced we have to specify what is the client from which we are extracting the data. So how do you know the client? Go to SAP logon, double click on the ECC. So here it shows you the client. The client is 800. So specify the client, which is 800. What is the system number? System number, right click on ECC, click properties. 67 is the instance number. So let us cancel and let us provide the system number, which is 67. So once you provide the system number, now click apply and click OK. So what did we do until now? We have created a data store called ECC6. So let us go back to the picture. Now you see at the data store, at the bods, I created one data store and the name of the data store is ECC6. Now this is basically a data store which is pointing to the ECC system. Now using this data store, I will use this data store to connect to ECC and import the tables from ECC to Hana directly. Let us see this. Let's go to Hana. So what is the repository name here? bods. So do I have to change this repository now? Because in the designer, what is the repository I'm using here? Report 555. So let us basically change at Hana. Let us give the repository name as repo 555 because we have a different repository, and click OK. So this we are doing at configure import server. So once you're done, click import and select selective import of metadata. Click next. So once you click next, then select the source connection. Now if you click on the drop down, so what is the connection we just created? ECC6. Now ECC6 is the connection I created at the designer. The same connection I'm able to access at the HANA Modeler HANA Studio at selective import of metadata. So this is the source connection. So type of objects you would like to import: tables, and click next. So once you click next, so here you can select objects for import. So what object or what table you would like to import? Let me give a table name called TSPA. Give the table name, click find. So it's just finding for the table. So still searching. So it's basically searching on the ECC side. So finally, basically search the table, select the table, and click add. Once you click add, now this is the table. Now if you expand, what columns are we importing from this table? MNDT, SPRT. Now if you want, you can add dependent tables. So dependent tables for TSPA is TSPAT, which is a text table. So I'm just importing a single table. And then what schema you would like to import this table? I would like to import to Hana user schema. So let us select Hana user schema. Click next. Once you click next, now here you see object validation, object details. Click next. So now you have connection name is ECC. Objects creation. One object will be created in the target schema Hana user. Click finish to confirm. Click finish. So once you click finish, now basically there's a job that is triggered in the backend, importing tables metadata. Double click on the job, and here you see there is a DDL statement. If you expand the DDL statement, if you select this, here it shows you create column table Hana user dot tspa mandt sprt, where primary key is mandt. So this is the table SQL statement that system generated. Now based on this SQL statement, let us go to the catalog. Expand the catalog. Let's go to the schema Hana user. Expand the schema. Let's expand tables. Let us expand tables. Right click on tables. Click filters. Provide the table name TSPA and click OK. So you have the table TSPA. Now You have the table TSPA, which is imported using selective import of metadata. Metadata means only the structure is imported. Okay, let me go back to the paint. So now the table from the ECC is imported using the data store, which is ECC6 into HANA. Okay, now table is here, but there is no data in the table, only the container without a content. Now how do we bring content which is here to this table? We only bought the structure but without data. Now how do we bring data into this table? So in order to bring data, so you bought the table now. So the first step is create a data store and import the table to HANA. Second step. Now what is the third step? Third step is again import table from HANA. Again import the table from HANA back to the bods repository. So the third step is import the table from HANA to bods repository. Now is this a physical table or a template table? This is a physical table. But you see, in the exercise that we usually perform, that we create a template table based on the source metadata. So whatever the metadata is in the repository, you point to this metadata and create a template table in target. But in here, physical table is imported. We're re-importing the physical table from HANA to bods repository. So now you import, in the third step, you import the table from HANA to bods repository and again import table from ECC to bods repository. Now once you import, create a query transform so that you can map source fields to target fields. And then finally, so third step is to import, fourth step is from ECC to bods, fifth step is to create the ETL flow, and sixth step is to execute the job. So again, create data store, import table from ECC to HANA, re-import table back from HANA to bods repository, ECC to bods repository, create the ETL flow, and finally execute the job. So let us do the steps now. So let us go back. Let us go back to Data Services Designer. We have created one data store for ECC. Let me create one more data store for HANA. HANA 6, HANA data store type database, database type SAP HANA. So select SAP HANA and let's provide the database version. Version is 1.x. Database server name. How do we know the database server name? Let's go to HANA Studio. Let's go to HANA Studio. Right click on the instance, click properties, and click on the additional properties. And here you see the server name, which is HANA server. Copy this, go back to designer, paste the server. Port number, what is the port number? Port number is 30715 at the HANA Studio. So let's provide the port number in the designer. Let's provide 30715. Give the username HANA user and provide the password welcome 1234. And finally click apply and click OK. So once you're done, HANA 6 data store and ECC6 data store is created. So what we have to do now? Now we know the table TSPA is already imported in HANA. So we need to import from here now. Right click on HANA 6 and import by name. What is the name of the table in HANA? TSPA. And click import. So once you import, expand HANA data store, expand tables. Now this is the table. Now how do we know whether it is a physical table or a template table? Physical tables are in blue color, template tables are in white color. So these are runtime tables, these are physical tables. Now what step we have done now? We have imported the table from HANA back to data services. Step number 3. Step number 4, import ECC table to bods. So let's again go back to data services designer. Right click on ECC, import object by name and provide the name of the table, which is TSPA, and click import. Once you click import, the table data store, tables, expand the tables. This is the table which is imported from ECC. The next thing that we need to do is, now the ECC table is imported back to bods. Now we need to create a data flow or the ETL process. You need to take the source table, you need to take the target table. Let me go back to designer. You need to take the source table, drag and drop. You need to take the target table, drag and drop, make it as target. Now we need to link both these tables. Take query transform, click on query transform, click here, join source to query and query to target. So once done, double click on query transform and here you have source. Let us select column, map to target, drag and drop. Now you see when you map, this is a blue color arrow symbol pointing to right side. TSPA map to, SPRT map to SPRT. Now once the mapping is done, click on validate, click validate, no errors found, click close, click back. Now let us execute the job. Let us execute the job. In order to execute the job, select the job. So select this job, right click and click execute. Click yes and click OK. So once you click OK, now the job will start. The job is starting. Finally, you get this job is completed successfully. And then if you go back to HANA, right click on the table, TSPA, open data preview. So this data is loaded. Now you can go to ECC. So MNDT and SPRT. So these are the two columns that we have got. Now this is a vtext. We haven't got this. We have got these two columns, MNDT, SPRT. So this is MNDT and SPRT. So in this way, you can import and execute the job from BODS. So this is nothing but this is an exercise to show you selective import of metadata. So any questions for today's session? So the question here, can we say there are two ways to import data from ECC to HANA? Yes. So one is using the template table, the second one using the physical tables. So did not understanding the mapping done in BODS. So we are basically mapping the source structure with target structure. The source structure you have fields, we're basically mapping to the target structure, because in this case it is not a template table because it's a physical table. We need to map source fields with target fields. What is the difference between a workbench and the designer? Workbench is mainly used for HANA. It is mainly used for HANA, but designer is also used for non-SAP applications. Now when you want to move data, it is not basically designed for HANA. You can use as an ETL tool, just like Informatica. You can keep moving data from one system, any third-party system, structured or unstructured data, to any other third-party systems. But Workbench is more relevant for HANA. What is a template table? A template table is a table that is generated in runtime. It basically inherits the source structure. It's just like a mirror. So how do we see our face in a mirror? So it basically, how mirror is copying our physical object. The same way template table copies the physical object. It copies the physical, it takes a mirror and creates a table in target. So is query in Workbench similar to projection in HANA? Yes, exactly. The query is similar to projection in HANA. But a projection cannot do joins. A query can do, but one of the similar functionality is projection is for selection, and query also can do selection. You can write calculated columns